We are going to cover the period between when the Kenyan government, which included 3 people, the President, Honorable Biwott, Honorable OUKO, the trip they made to the USA. The time covered is between when they left Kenya, all the time they were there, up to the time they landed back in Kenya. But then, before we do that, there is other information related to that trip. The information relates to how the trip was planned. It is relevant to that time when they were in the USA. We will start with a few years, 3 or so years before OUKO died. The world used to be in what was called the Cold War, where the East, led by the Soviet Union, had organized half of the world, and the West, led by the USA, had the other world. So these 2 blocks used to finance other countries, dictatorships, and so on. And if the dictatorship that you ran into problems with whatever mlengo you are in, you would just cross over to the other. So the West ignored so many dictatorships for the sake of retaining them. And they used to heavily sponsor those countries. The West, including the USA, used a lot of money in propaganda, in making a lot of modern weaponry to face the East. Then suddenly, without no notice apparently, the Soviet Union crumbled. So the West had no need to pembeleza somebody. I remember there was an ambassador, a US ambassador, who said that future aid to countries will be tied to its democratic values. So we found ourselves now having conditions. Previously, we used to, you know, there are 3 types of funds that is given out. The first fund is what is called an aid. To give you an example of an aid, for example, a country can decide to finance the construction of the SGR from Nairobi or from Naivasha. It is at Naivasha. From Naivasha all the way to Uganda. They finance everything. We pay nothing. That is an aid. 2, there is what we call a grant. A grant, a country finances from Naivasha to Uganda at a certain amount. Then we are told to pay the exact amount. Maybe we are even given 5 or 10 years grace period to start paying. Now, if they give you 1 trillion shillings today and you start paying it after 10 years and you pay only 1 trillion, you don't even give a cent on top, you find that it is like you are paid less. Then the last one is a loan. A loan is you are given 1 trillion shillings to construct maybe the railway from Naivasha to Uganda, and then you pay some interest, whatever interest you calculate. If the interest is even 1 shilling more than what you are given, that is a loan. It is said that the money, be it aid, grant, or loan, there is a joke that it used to land at Jomo Kenyatta with one plane, and most of it takes off with another plane to go into people's accounts in the foreign countries. I cannot say whether it is true or not, but it was so said. Then suddenly, we found that we had doubled the number of countries which needed that loan. So you could not get the loan 100% the way you used to get. Quick maths would say that you'll now be entitled to 50%. Although these Western countries, the money that they used for propaganda, the money they used for espionage, spying, the money that they used to use for construction of new weaponry was now being channeled into development. But then you find that these other new countries, which previously were Soviet-leaning, had more demand for money because, one, the West wanted to put them more in the pocket than us so that they do not plan to maybe go around and work under China or anything. Plus the fact that these countries, most of them were, if I can use tribalism, for a lack of a better word. These are Caucasians, and the West were Caucasians, and we are Negroes. So there are so many reasons, and funds went down. And even funds going down, conditions started. Now a person like Moi, who was above the law, or even above the Constitution, was now being compelled indirectly by the West to open up more democratic spaces. The West started avoiding him, and a decision was made by him to go and visit the American president. You know, being seen with the American president, be it in White House in the US or State House in Nairobi, just recently we had King Charles here, or any other international meeting where the American president is there, such places places a big value to the sitting president. So Moi looked for an excuse to visit the American president in the White House. But because of those conditions that he had to put on more democracy, and he was now a pariah, the American president did not want to be seen with him, the American president refused. OUKO, who used to give the president advices that the president needed, told the president just to ignore that thing and move on. But Biwott, who used to give the president advices that the president wanted to hear, I want you to differentiate the two. OUKO gave advices that the president needed to hear, and Biwott gave advices that the president wanted to hear. So it was planned. A phone was made to the president, the American president refused. Then coincidentally, you know, we have borrowed something from the US, this national prayer breakfast. So there was going to be national prayer breakfast, and Moi asked the American president whether he could attend the national prayer meeting. The American president said, nobody can stop anybody from attending prayers. If you want to attend prayers, you attend prayers. And that is how they went for the prayers. When they went for the prayers, obviously, a visiting head of state would be acknowledged. A visiting head of state would rush and greet, have a small photo session with the president, such a thing. But the ultimate goal was to be seen in the White House. So when they reached there and the president was at the prayers meeting, he said, "Oh, Mr. President, I've remembered something. I think I must see you. I think I must see you. I must visit you at the White House." Then the American president asked him, "Is it something that we talked while you are still in Africa?" You know, those people don't say you are in Kenya, they say you are in Africa. "Is it something that we discussed?" He said, "No, it is something that has just cropped up in my mind." Then the American president told President Moi, "Can you send your Secretary of State to come and brief me, so that if I see that there is something that needs your presence, then I'll tell him to." So OUKO was chosen to go there because he was the Secretary of State. That is what in America the Minister for Foreign Affairs is called. And in Britain, Minister for Foreign Affairs is called Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth, and such things. So he went there in his capacity as the minister. The other thing, when he went there, he told the American president what he had been sent, and the American president said that it is still not reason enough for Moi to come to White House. So he went and gave the report. Now, the other thing that was happening in the USA is that they have their role of priority. Priority number one is either the head of state or head of government. You know, in Kenya, the head of state is still the head of government, but in some countries, head of state and head of country are two different. Head of state and head of government are two different people. So that is priority number one, and they are given security and treatment at the highest level. The second level is the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Minister for Foreign Affairs is given the second most highest rank. That is, it started even before OUKO was born. And third is the Vice President. You know, in America, they take a Vice President to be the personal assistant of the President or the personal assistant of the head of state. So when they went there, the security arrangement, the vehicle, the outriders and so on, for Moi was the biggest. And for Biwott, it was the second biggest. Not Biwott. For OUKO, it was the second biggest. And Biwott and other ministers were treated like any other minister. And because the place where OUKO was placed was so big that he just called Biwott to come and share with him. So whenever they moved, the motorcade was for OUKO. Not because of anything else, but because he was the Minister for Foreign Affairs. That is internationally recognized. That is why a Prime Minister is called Right Honorable, and an ambassador to the smallest country you can imagine, is called Your Excellency. It is because the ambassador is in an equivalent to the president, to the country. He's representing the country and the president, the head of state, the head of government, and whatever. That is why ambassadors are called Your Excellency. So the treatment, the motor vehicle outriders, the going to White House and so on, was not for OUKO. It is even the current foreign minister today, Madividi. If he goes to the US, he'll get special treatment, not because he's the prime minister, but because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is docket. That is why OUKO was treated well. But in those few minutes, to keep the president busy in his hotel and whatever, Biwott used to go and visit. And you know, Moi by nature, he was paranoia. Hii maneno ya fitina kwenda kumwambia, mzee, unaona, angalia mimi ni waziri tu kama yeye. Na angalia, tumekuja na mawaziri gani? Tumekuja na waziri fulani. Angalia motorcade ya waziri fulani. Angalia motorcade ya fulani. Na angalia ya huyu. Halafu angalia yeye peke yake. In fact, hata wewe hujaitwa White House. Wewe hujaitwa White House. yeye ndiye ameitwa. These people want to overthrow. I keep telling you, they want to overthrow you, but usikii. They want to install OUKO there. Moi akaona na ni kweli. So he goes back. You know what, your fitina goes back to you, say, sasa jitenge, sasa KHWATENGE sema, sijui. But you know what he has just said. But somehow the CIA told OUKO while he was in the US that your life is not safe, don't go back to Kenya. Please stay in the USA. But OUKO told them, I know President Moi, he's a Christian, he values me, he cannot do that to me. And then that is when they left and came back to Kenya. You see, as I finish, I just want to tell you that there is Biwott using Moi's insecurity. There is the American system of hierarchy. You go there as a vice president, because there's no way, unless the vice president is a minister for foreign affairs, but it is not even encouraged for the vice president to be a minister for foreign affairs, because when the president goes out, he has to be accompanied by the minister for foreign affairs and the relevant ministries. If the president is going out and they're going to talk about Labu Port, they have to have the minister for transport. They have to, if they are going to talk about enhancing education, he has to go with the minister for education. So the people that go with the president are the minister for foreign affairs must go there, and other ministers whose ministries are relevant. So, and when you reach there, it is rare for the vice president to go, because when the president is out, the vice president has to be remained in the country. It is very rare for a vice president to be minister for foreign affairs. And so when they go there, the day the vice president goes there, he goes there as a representative of the president, just like an ambassador. So you'll find that the day a minister for foreign affairs goes to the USA, the kind of motorcade he received, and the day Gachagua will go there, and the kind of motorcade he will receive are different. But you see, Biwott used Moi's insecurity to tell him, mzee, unataka ushahidi gani ingine? Si unaona huyu anataka kukupindua. That is for today's segment on the trip to the USA. Watch out for other segments. We had planned to have several segments, and placing it on one tape would have been long.